Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Deb Coviello, and I am joined by Cynthia Beiler today. Cynthia, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I am so glad you're joining us. I have been trying to reach out to leaders because there is this burning topic that I just keep seeing over and over again when I go into organizations. I see great talent. And then I find there are so many things. It's like this 800-pound gorilla in the room that keeps people from being the best that they can be. But before we get started, just so people know, I met Cynthia through Meredith Bell. Thank you, Meredith. And Cynthia was on my recent podcast, number 66. It is starting to trend really high, so you want to be sure to listen to that. But Cynthia has over 26 years of experience in sales and marketing, and now she has her own business, Leveraged Mind Consulting, to help organizations fuel their profitability. So, Cynthia, I would love to you go a little bit more into when you go into organizations, where are they at, and how do you help them get through some of the things that hold them back?
Well, so my work starts because there's a process broken or numbers aren't where they are. So it's very tactical, I think, in the minds of the people who bring me in. But more often than not, and I think this is some of the things you're experiencing,
Yeah.
it's really in depth in the culture, and the culture is affected adversely because I think the state of mind of the organization is either broken or unfueled or just squelched. So that's not how I get in the door, but oftentimes, majority of the times, those are the things I'm digging in on and working with.
I'm curious though, is what are the signs that a leader should look for to see that something's broken in the culture or mindset versus going through the gyrations of, I need more profitability. I'm not meeting my sales targets. What are those signs? Because I think those are the people that should be listening right now so that we can help them through some of this mindset work before the
Mhm.
tactical work that they think needs to be fixed. So, what should they be looking for?
So that's an interesting question
Yeah.
because what they should be looking for is within themselves and what's not jiving. That's really a challenge for most leaders to be open enough to and willing to first start with themselves. Um, if that was done by more leaders, sadly, I'd probably have a lot less work, or my work would be very different. So coming in, it's really when you hear a leader telling you everything that's wrong with everybody else, the first thing I do is tactfully dig in with them. What's going on in their minds? And oftentimes it's their veil of, you know, everything that's going wrong in front of them. It's easier to blame that when the reality is inside. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to fix it, and they're not willing to ask those kind of questions because we are trained as leaders we're supposed to have all the answers. So that's the kind of work that I think gets to the root of the problem a lot quicker, as if I can work with that leader up front. I don't always have that opportunity, but that's ideally where you'd want to start, is what's within.
I love what you say about that, and I'll share a quick story about, we'll use the word vulnerable, but you could say insecure, unsure. I'm
Mhm.
not feeling really good about this. So I fractured my ankle about 8 weeks ago, and I've almost fixed, but I curl. And if people who are watching this know me, you know that I curl, I throw stones on ice. And yesterday was the first day I got back on the ice, and I wasn't sure I could throw stones. And you know what? Rather than not getting on the ice, I told the people around me, I'm feeling a little unsure about myself. If I throw a few things the wrong way, this is what's going on. But you know what? In the end, I had a great day, made some good shots,
Mhm.
and people were very caring and forgiving. So I wonder, I mean, how do we get leaders, at least for themselves, to just express themselves? Again, this is that woo woo stuff, but oh my God, it's so important. What are the things that they're saying? What are you hearing them say or how they feel? Because maybe we can get a few more leaders to start getting through this stuff.
Yeah, leading with in uncertain times anyway just causes people to second guess themselves.
Mhm.
But if they could step back right now even farther and realize that everyone is leading in uncertain times. And so the opportunity to be vulnerable in a safe space has probably never been more prevalent, because if you're willing right now to admit, I don't know exactly what to do with this, and that might be coming out in my leadership, that might be closing my mind. If you start doing some of that admission to your leaders above you and even to your team, it's amazing how people come together in those moments to work together and see what could be done differently moving forward. And again, I think there's no time like the present for a leader to take this leap of faith, because I guarantee if they're a second, third, fourth level leader, the person above them is having the same questions of their abilities, because what they've always done is not producing the same results.
That's tremendous insight. That, if nothing else, is that thing that can, I don't know, propel somebody past that insecurity. If you can plant the seed, if I'm feeling it, if I'm feeling unsure, the guy or gal upstairs and possibly the people below me are feeling the same way. And what better way? Why don't we start asking people how they feel? How do they
Yeah.
feel?
And sometimes you have to ask it a couple times. No, really, how do you feel? I always have the great line, like, I literally can't fire you in this moment. So take a chance. Tell me what you're thinking, because I'm the outsider.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm hired typically by the executives, but I think almost like I take the role of bartender. In a bar setting, a bartender finds out everything. People will spill their guts to you, because in the moment, they're not vulnerable to someone who has nothing to do with their future. A bartender's just going to serve you drinks. So I try to come in. I don't serve drinks typically, but I get people to understand that by sharing those vulnerabilities and some of those insecurities and fears, I ask them to just trust in the moment that that's only going to help, not hurt our progress. So I'm pretty upfront about the fact I can't fire you. This is the safest place you'll ever be to acknowledge what you're afraid of. So let's dig in.
That bartender theme has come up a few times in my life over the last couple of weeks. I better start pursuing that. There may be something in that. So let's just say we're working on the leaders. So this is for the leaders that do feel a little vulnerable and unsure. They don't know how they're going to get through or get to the next level. While we're trying to coach or influence those people or get on the phone with them, the people below them, they're feeling the same way. I mean, what are some things for an emerging leader that they can do now, that while their leaders are dealing with it, what can they do to start showing their leadership and asking some tough questions and moving forward their vulnerabilities?
Yeah, it's an interesting, that's a tough spot when you're a new leader. It's just a challenge to be able to allow yourself to admit you don't have the answers. But I think it's easier to start maybe with your team, who you're leading, be vulnerable and open with them, ask them questions and acknowledge you're asking them because you really want to know, because you don't have all the answers. So you start there, I think, with the team that you're running, and then work changes. You start producing, the numbers start changing. In my world, sales, that's when leaders on their own are going, what are you doing? Why are you guys not struggling? And I promise, if you start as an emerging leader working with your team in that open, honest format without your own agenda, they're going to start producing. They're going to start trusting you, and together you're going to get noticed in a good way, typically.
I love what you say, and that brings up a quick story. I'm working with a client right now, and I'm working with a leader, and I keep setting up the framework. They need to kick off a new initiative, and they're hedging, they're postponing, they're unsure. And I asked the question, I said, have you ever done this particular initiative and lead it and share it with your leadership team? And he said, no, I've never done this before. There's the point of vulnerability. So then I realized my approach is different. What can we do to get your talking points, elevate you, build that confidence so you show up like You've done it before. And
Mhm.
then once they do it that one time, all of a sudden I saw their chest open up. They felt confident. They were running with it. And then they truly used me simply as a consultant versus somebody to help them break through that mindset.
Right. And I think there's a nice little gateway you can use when you are, if you're an emerging leader
Mm.
and you know this is your first time, you don't have all the answers, get curious about the situation and get curious with your leaders. If you're asking really good questions that is gaining their insights, it doesn't reflect poorly on you. They don't, the first thought is, oh, they don't know what they're doing. Everyone's a little, egocentric. And if someone starts asking me what my thinking is around it, I'm going to open up in a very safe way, and that new leader will get a better view of where they should potentially take the project or the team without anyone being totally clear that this person feels like they don't know what they're doing. I've found that question can change everything, like getting curious about the situation or really asking for the insights from your leader. That's going to neutralize any, difficult or feeling that uncomfortableness in a new situation.
And that's the gem of this conversation and why I invite people on. Because if we move from a place of simply, I should have all the answers and be able to disseminate information, when you don't know something, the more questions you ask, you can move beyond that and eventually have the ability to perform. So beautiful
Yes.
insight. So if there was anything else that you wanted to share with leaders about, again, seeing vulnerability as a strength, what would that be? And then we'll bring this to a close.
I think that in the moments that you are most frustrated as a leader,
Yeah.
that is the time to really dig inwardly. And I come from an organization that there was this phrase, and right before this call, I had a great conversation with my best friend who's still in the organization. She goes, when you say the phrase, put the mirror to my face, what's going on with me, that should be your first step. Because once you figure out what's going on inside of your own thinking, that is when you're going to be with best use out to your team and to your leadership. So it really starts with us, and remove ego, remove everything when you ask yourself that question and be honest about what's going on so you can move further faster.
All right. Beautiful insight. I am so happy we've had this conversation and bring it live to our listeners. If people wanted to connect with you, how could they get a hold of you?
My website is leveragedmind.com, and my email is cynthia@leveragedmind.com. So always up for a great conversation.
All right. Yeah, fantastic. And again, if people want to talk to me also about my services, Leadership Academy, and coaching services, drop in CEO.com so we can continue the conversation. Cynthia, thank you so much. You've been a great guest and wish you a
Thank
great
you.
rest of your day.
Oh, it was wonderful. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.